Hi, my name is Mayuri Patankar. I'm a writing tutor with the Center for Writing and Communication at Ashoka University. Uh, for this shelf pick, I want to talk about Adivasi words and Adivasi expression. A lot of what we know today is about the category or the term Adivasi. So there has been a very increased in the contemporary discourse, in popular discourse, there has been a lot of talk of the Adivasi subject or the Adivasi subjectivity. But most of that work refers to the writings which are published in English or with the interactions of Adivasi with the state. Uh, my concern is that Adivasi words are numerous and plural. uh, there is a lot, there have been many constellations which predate the category of Adivasi. And these are the constellations that predate the nationally scaled discourses of Adivasi or internationally inflected, UN inflected discourses of indigeneity. So, like, I work on Central India, which is why most of my suggestions about the books are going to come from Central India. And how I understand Adivasi communities is the key being there is an ethic of self governance. And that ethic is demonstrated, has been demonstrated in multiple literary worlds, in religious spheres, and everyday politics as well. So I'm going to speak of three anthologies. One is an ethnography, and one is a scholarly book. So, of all the five books, four of them are based in Central India. One of them is based in Ghana, but it is a comparable context, and I find it very useful to read the book, and it always gives me new ideas to think about the Central Indian context. So, first book I want to talk about is this gorgeous, beautiful book called Anuttarit Lok. This has been edited by Kanch Patel, a poet himself, also a novelist, writes largely in Gujarati. But this is a gorgeous volume which collates many authors from various Adivasi communities. Interestingly, also uh, writers from the Northeast, and Hindi being so it's like multilingual, it has multiple script practices, and Hindi being a dominant language, but again, it's not one version of Hindi, that one would see multiple Hindis here. Mm, the most, the title, Anuttarit Lok, it means people. There are two ways that the title has been thought about. People who haven't been answered enough by the mainstream society, कि उनको जवाब मिला नहीं है और वो जवाब देना नहीं चाहते. They do not want to answer the mainstream society, and there is this understanding that this community is a different, it's a civilizational identity which is different from the larger Indic civilizational identity. So beautiful title, beautiful cover, Anuttarit Lok, and multiple poems. And there is also an English translation which is being made and collated right now. Uh, for our concern, I will take us to the Gondi context because I largely work with Gondi and Halba. So here you see all the poets, right from the classic Bhujang Mishram, Usha Kiran Atram. Uh, these are the people who are known for being Gondi poets and who are like regularly cited, or like these poems appear regularly in uh, various syllabi in India. Uh, so there are those. At the same time, there are new people, like there are new poets, like there is Hemant Dalpati. There is Sher Singh Anchla, who is a political activist, very well known, who is also writing for us. Vaishali Dhurve, Rudra Manchi, Shatali Shermanke, Santosh Kunjam, very new voice. And if you just look at the table of contents here, you would see like there are multiple scripts in which these poems appear. And then there are Hindi ones. So that makes it a very beautiful, gorgeous, uh, and expansive compendium of how many voices there are when we speak of Adivasi. So that is one. Next is, let's go with an anthology. This is Adivasi Lekhan Ek Ubharti Chetna by Ramnika Gupta. So Ramnika Gupta was, among many other things, a politician, worked a lot for a very long time in Jharkhand, and this is the Eastern India poetry, Eastern India expression of Adivasi culture. So this is how, what do you say, her intervention within the local culture, and having attended some of these events. So Ramnika Gupta, while she was alive, also edited a magazine called Yuddharat Atmi Ki Awaz, and provided a platform for a lot of Adivasi poets. Largely, her work began as a platform for Dalit poetry, but over a period of time, it became also a platform for Adivasi poems. So Ramnika Gupta is held in high regard amongst Adivasi poets. So one of the poets I met said, like, she was a leftist, वामपंथी, and कि वामपंथियों ने हमारे लिए दरवाज़ा खोल दिया, एंड हमने लात मार के दरवाज़ा खोला और हम अंदर घुस गए. So that is the kind of imagination this is a part of. Like, this is left inflected poetry, and Ramnika Gupta always she had this editorial ethic where she would not edit the words. She would not edit the poems or writings for grammar, because she wanted to showcase the Adivasi worlds as they were. So which is why it is very remarkable in its own way. This is largely known in nationally scaled Adivasi context, and at the same time, like, this is very popular in local Adivasi. So I purchased my copy in a festival, in a religious festival. So very popular. A lot of Adivasi persons in central India are reading this book. So that is that. Next one is a local scholar. It's a book. It's an academic book by this very brilliant scholar called Dr. Tukaram Ronkte, teaches in Pune, is a professor. And this is called Adivasi Sahitya, Niyat Kalikatil. So Niyat Kalika is a community magazine which is published regularly. And what is remarkable about this book is the amount of research that has gone into it. This was published in 2022, but it is based on a PhD which was finished in 2015. The scholar is very thorough, and I was taken in by the amount of work that has gone into it. And one would see, so the subtitle that doesn't appear in the book, but that appears in the PhD, is from 1950 to 2010. So there have been, like, community magazines which are done by Adivasi communities themselves since 1950s. And he tells us about multiple of those. And this is a very rigorous and grounded scholarship. So he tells us about all this, and usually one would not think of Adivasi and Marathi in the same framework, because the general conception is that most Adivasi community members would either write in Hindi or or other Adivasi languages. So that was very surprising that a lot of Adivasi persons were also writing in 1950, since 1950s onwards in Marathi, which is why I think this is a brilliant compendium. Like, Soronte also has other books on Adivasi subject in Marathi literature, which I feel is very fascinating, because one tends to think of Adivasi community as being very separate. But here we see, like, this, in this work, this internal interdependencies between Adivasi civilizational identity and Indic civilizational identity. So yes, so this is like a lot of PhDs could come out of this book because it just has so much to offer. So yes, this one. And the next is moving on to English, moving on to Nilgiris this time. Madhu Ramnath, a very well-known activist, scientist, uh, ethnographer, who has lived in Nilgiris for more than 30 years now. So has written this beautiful book called Wood, Smoke and Leaf Cups. So one could actually sense the Adivasi verse while reading this book. So it is largely an anthropology of having lived with the community called Durwa. Uh, and here, so at the time that it was published, Ramnath had already lived in the Nilgiris for 28 years. What I really like about this book is like it talks about coloniality, like in the way in which certain colonial functions of the state have continued despite independence. So we see that a lot, like how local communities are responding to forest officers. Like forest officers continue to act like this very draconian babus, how local livelihoods are affected, and how our state policies do not really think of or do not really consider uh, Adivasi life worlds while making these policies. Second, it talks about internal differences within the Adivasi community. So there are some landed communities, some migrant communities, and we also see a lot of internal friction, also internal collaboration amongst various Adivasi communities, which is why I find this to be a major intervention. Uh, but the best part is the deep work that has gone into this book in terms of so much of attentive listening has happened and so much of thought has been invested in the craft of writing this book. So it's a delight for someone who works, and also it's a model on how one should write an ethnography in an Adivasi context. So yeah, which is why like it is an all-time favorite. Like every time one reads this, one would always there's always something new that one would get out of this. Uh, so yes, this is Wood, Smoke and Leaf Cups. And the next one, moving on to Ghana now. So we usually tend to think of Adivasi worldviews as very different as the ones that have not had enough representation in academia. However, having worked in this context, it seems to me that a lot of academic vocabulary and academic constructions of Adivasi identity or Adivasi life worlds have actually gained currency in public discourse and also in everyday life. So that is a very difficult and intriguing part for me to deal with, which is why like I always go back to this amazing, very controversial, very controversial and bold book called Decolonizing African Religion. It is by Okot Pibitek. This is based largely, so the subtitle of this book is A Short History of African Religions in Western Scholarship. So largely here, the author talks about, the author just looks at the constructions of deities, the constructions of culture, or the word or religion in the scholarship on Ghana, and juxtaposes that with the empirical work, the field work that they did in Ghana. And then they tell us about what exactly is happening, what differences are there. And what we see is that a lot of a Protestant inflected idea of God, deity, somehow subsumes or folds in multiple local ideas of deities. So that has happened in both missionary scholarship, in administrative scholarship, surprisingly also in the decolonial nationalist scholarship. So that is the most interesting and intriguing part for me. Uh, I see something like that happening in India also, where the Western conceptions have actually, they are being seen as very useful, uh, and also because they're linked with rights and claims. So this is a very interesting work to just understand where we are and how did we reach here. And because similar kind of dynamics operates in central India as well, where there are like certain missionary conceptions of religion. We just don't know their missionary conceptions of religion, but they have become everyday. They have become they are being circulated in uh, public discourse as well, which is why I find this book very, very interesting and useful. So those are my five books, and all that I've tried to say is that there is a lot when we think of the term Adivasi, and there are these antecedents to the term Adivasi, and the danger is that we do not want to conflate all these constellations into one category, and to keep alive the plurality that you know that has kept these voices very dynamic and alive. So yeah, thank you.